Roger Moore, Tanya Roberts, Grace Jones et Christopher Walken. James Bond a-t-il trouvé plus fort que lui? Vous le saurez en voyant Dangereusement Vôtre.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to the James Bond Complex. I am one of your hosts, Edgar.
And I'm Matt.
It was very enthusiastic.
I was trying to go for Christopher Walken, but only one of us can do characters.
We are, of course, a James Bond podcast. We discuss and analyze the James Bond phenomenon in all its shapes and forms, from Fleming to film and everything in between. Today we just spent a couple of episodes discussing a volume of short stories, the title of which is For Eyes Only. Among the collection of short stories in that book,
Numero uno,
no less, 001, if you will, is a story called From a View to a Kill. And we were in a bit of not a jam, but we had a bit of a dilemma a few weeks back when we realized, oh man, the next recording is a collection of short stories. Like, we're going to talk about 3 movies? Well, no, because we want to save the movies as much as we can. There will come a day where we won't have any James Bond movies. We want that day to be as far off as possible. So I don't know what brought us to A View to a Kill, but that's the one we selected. So
2 things. It's the first in the collections, the first one that you read when you read the collection. And also, fairly recently, in February, we actually saw A View to a Kill, you and I, in theater during the Cineplex Flashback Festival.
Yeah, if you think Roger Moore looks old when you watch him on DVD.
On the big screen, it doesn't forgive.
So, what does happen in A View to a Kill? Our plot gets off to a chilly start as Bond is sent to Siberia in order to locate the body of frostbitten colleague 003. The fellow 00 was in possession of a particular microchip, which Bond narrowly manages to get back to MI6 by escaping heavy fire from the Russian army and inventing snowboarding in the process. Back in London, Q Branch reveals that the chip in question is an exact replica of the same device conceived by a British government contractor, Zorn Industries, owned by Max Zorn, a wealthy industrialist from Dresden who speaks 5 languages with no accents, although he does a great Christopher Walken impersonation. Desperate to seal a possible leak to the KGB, M sends 007 to investigate Max Zorn in France, where the latter is holding an auction of race horses, although this proves rather difficult with Mayday always around, his personal aide/bodyguard/lover/assassin/confidant/trainer/stylist. Bond also makes the acquaintance of the beautiful Stacey Sutton, although her part to play at this point is a mystery. 007 assisted with MI6 contact and horse trainer Sir Godfrey Tibbett to investigate, although once Zorn and Mayday are on to the government agents, Sir Godfrey is taken to the cleaners. After learning that Zorn is utilizing microchips to juice his horses with adrenaline to win races, the mission takes our hero to San Francisco, where he liaises with his CIA contact Felix Chuck Lee. Together, along with Miss Sutton, who we learn is a geologist working for the city, Bond discovers much more than he bargained for about Zorn. He is the result of a World War II genetic experiment by the Nazis, making him stronger and smarter than the average person, but also a complete sociopath who laughs at the prospect of dancing into the fire. What's more, Zorn has concocted Operation Main Strike, by which he and his minions will detonate hundreds of explosives near Silicon Valley, thus artificially creating an earthquake and flood that will swallow the valley and everything and everyone in it. After sharing in some delightful quiche, Bond and Stacey foil Zorn's plan, and 007 even heeds Mayday's dying wish of getting Zorn for her atop the Golden Gate Bridge, where all the pent-up hot air until now is finally released between Bond and Zorn. Despite his best efforts at getting the upper hand, the villain eventually has to drop out and plunging to his death. Alone at last in a steamy shower, Bond and Stacy wash the pain away while Stacy helps Bond with the soap, and Q channels his inner peeping Tom as credits roll. So that's A View to a Kill in a nutshell. Now, we have a lot of... I feel like I say this every time we start a movie review, but I feel this one's special about how we have a lot to talk about. And you said something very interesting before we hit record earlier today. You said you wanted to get some of the obvious things out of the way, and I agree with you. So let's maybe take a couple minutes about the repeated, the ad nauseum repeated criticisms toward this movie. I think the fans know probably what we're gonna say. I guess it would still be bizarre if we didn't broach those things at all because they're so painfully obvious.
Let's start with it because I'm honestly, there's nothing we can add. Roger Moore's tool is 57,
and he looks it. It's fun. It's one of those things because Octopussy, which is, spoilers, one of my personal favorites. He doesn't look like a young man in Octopussy. My goodness, those 2 years he looks between 83 and 85.
He had the mole removed. He had some plastic surgery, and he just doesn't look good.
And what this probably sort of bleeds into another one of the things is the stunt doubles. The stunt doubles. It's so obvious. That's the problem. Because it is very obvious, especially in the Paris car chase where his little taxi split into two, and so the hood is off as well.
Whoops! It's somebody else. There's plenty of shots. Yeah, it's not Roger Moore. It's Roger Moore. Okay, Roger Moore. Not Roger Moore. No, it's ridiculous.
But I did contemplate in my synopsis: heavy fire from the Russian military who's chasing Roger Moore's stunt double. And it's
parts of the plot are very, very convoluted. Bond movie plots are convoluted, most of it, but this one it takes the cake.
It feels like they put in effort to make this as long-winded as they could. I like the first half much more than the second, and yet oddly enough, the first half, 90% of the plot in the first half is completely pointless in relation to the second half.
Yeah, most of the Bond movies are Bond investigates plot A and leads into plot B, and there's usually the transition between the two plots, and this is the low bar when it comes to plot transition. It's like, okay, we're investigating chips, and now he's gonna blow up the Silicon Valley, and it started with a horse race.
It's bizarre because the pre-title sequence subtly introduces us to the chip plot.
I don't like. We're probably gonna touch on those throughout our review, but I don't want to focus on just the negativity. It's been discussed in books and reviews, wherever this movie is discussed. People bring
disgusting. Do people say it's disgusting?
Some of them do, because Roger Moore.
I can actually maybe think of one reason. Yeah, which we'll get to.
A little notes I have on this particular movie took. I watched a documentary, but they started shooting in June of 1984, and they finished in January. And I think part of the reason why the shoot was so long is that the James Bond 007 studio burnt down because of Ridley Scott's Legend. They had to rebuild the thing.
As legend would have it, Ridley Scott burned down the studio.
So they had to rebuild it. They had to create the mindset. The mindset is a set, and it looks gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
See? Positive. Gorgeous sets. Always there. The money's on the screen for that. That set is beautiful. Like, when I was a kid, when I first saw it, I believed it. I'm like, this is a real place.
And I have to assume that it's not... particularly simple or cheap to film in downtown San Francisco or downtown Paris. So it's like, there's money on the screen. Again, I look... is A View to a Kill among my favorites? No, but I don't hate the movie. I'll get into why. I'm just not a big fan of the second half, but even the second half has its moments.
Yeah, the second half eventually picks up. It starts weak.
Late, though. Late.
Yes, but it does. One of the things that kind of always amused me about the title of the movie, Dangereusement Vôtre in French, is that it's a play on one of the TV shows that Roger Moore played, which was Amicalement Vôtre, which was The Pretenders in English. So I
did not know that was the name of it in French.
Yeah. So that's why it's named Dangereusement Vôtre. Yeah. Which means
it's
nothing. And I think when they say that when she goes, "Oh, what have you to a kill?" It's in French, "Oh, de la mire à la mort." That's what they say, which would have been a terrible title.
Would it have?
De la mire à la mort, like from the target to death till target does us apart. I don't know if you would how you would translate back their translation back to English, because it means nothing. Sometimes they have these things that when they have to translate, it's like, okay, it doesn't work, so we're just gonna make up our own stuff.
Well, you have to sometimes. I mean,
And speaking of dubbing, the guy who plays Aubergine, Albert Aubergine, and
aubergine.
Scarp-
You want to find out. I'm glad you approved since you're foot in the bill.
and the actor who plays Scarpine, actually both them dubbed themselves back into French. And
We should point out you rewatched the film like a second time in French dub.
just to make it more interesting.
Palatable?
Not palatable, just different. Because I watched it still fairly recently. I wanted a different. I skipped. Sometimes I watched I skip channels, so I listened to some of the Roger Moore audio commentary, especially in the last part of the movie.
Oh, those must be good. You know, to this day, I've never listened to one.
Sometimes he's good. Sometimes there's a lot of not dead
That sounds
hair,
great.
but sometimes he has nothing to say about the movie. Sometimes he's telling stories about the war, how he learned how to drive a motorbike. So it's like it's not always interesting, but some of them are really good nuggets of information, and sometimes it's just funny to hear him like recall how he came up with an idea or a joke. He's still an entertaining guy. It's just that he's alone. Like I wish they would have brought
An interviewer.
somebody to discuss the movie. But I mean, I'd rather have these audio commentary than no commentary. It was a complex shoot because of the problem with the studio burning down. And also, it's the third director that directs Roger Moore as James Bond in a Bond movie. Because we did Moonraker with Lewis Gilbert, who also directs him in The Spy Who Loved Me. And we also had
Guy Hamilton for a couple movies, the early
So we're
ones.
have the three flavors. And there's and it's also the swan song for Roger Moore. That's his final appearance as James Bond. I love the fact, and I read it online, that his last shot in the movie, he throws in the towel at the screen. It's like, okay, I'm too old for this, dude.
I did not pick up on that.
I thought it was very clever of
Didn't
them.
pick up on that.
You see the transition, that how he plays the character and how movies evolve. Because if you remember Live and Let Die, and you compare
I
it to
never forget Live and Let Die.
but compared to A View to a Kill, despite the age, those are movies that are made differently, complete fashion than each other. And even Moonraker is glamorous. Moonraker has a filter, gaze, the way it's photographed. John Glenn, really, his movies have a
little flat.
little bit dirty. I'm gonna say dirty, but more like grittiness. They feel more real than Moonraker. Moonraker and Spy Who Loved Me look like cartoons.
I would say that applies to Fries Only and Octopus. I always feel maybe the problem is the fact that they didn't have the 007 sound stage, so they had to shoot elsewhere. But I find there's something just a little bit flat sometimes about the image in this film. I can't quite put but it's annoying. It's one of those things I can't put my finger on it.
Might also have been trying to hide Roger Moore's age, like filter glazes.
Maybe.
The way they light the scenes just to avoid there's not a lot of close-ups on his face because you would see every freaking wrinkle. So, I mean, it's
like
the weird picture.
the party in France. When they go to the horse auction and they're sort of outside, I was looking for the bar. Come, let me show you, Henry or Dr. Mortimer, at your service.
You mean Captain Super Nazi with the monocle?
Captain Super Nazi.
Well,
Is that what we're calling him?
Well, Mr. Nazi, not monocle Nazi.
No. Captain Super Nazi. So Captain Super Nazi brings Bond outside, and so that's where he meets with Zorn for a couple of seconds. That's where he meets Stacey Sutton for the first time. And there's, I watched it on HD TV, and the iTunes streaming is an HD version, and yet there was still something like soft and flat about the image. So you might be onto something. Maybe,
especially outside, you have harsh light. It's hard to hide. Like, if you have wrinkles, and I mean, you watch the poster. I mean, okay, I have a reproduction, but just the reproduction, you can see, like, he has strong lines. They're trying to make him look as manly as possible, but there's the lines of a 57-year-old man.
I don't like this poster. I never knew Bond was that dumb. Can he not see Max Zorn behind him? You're like, oh my God, where is he? Where is he?
I actually love this poster.
I'm joking, but it just dawned on me, like, that's a really stupid way to.
It's goofy. It looks like an after. Oh, we have to put the villain on because it doesn't look like. You could actually remove the Zeppelin and just have Bond and the girl. And
we're talking about the poster, the popular one that's atop the Golden Gate Bridge.
People know what we're talking about.
Although there is one poster that might have been for a different market. It's very yellow, and it's Bond and Mayday, and Mayday is like behind Bond,
back to back,
and they almost look like Art Deco style or something like that.
Advanced promotional material, but I've seen that.
But I don't think they ever made it official.
It's not the main.
No, because you have to look a little bit online to find it. But I've always liked that one. It just looks so different. I know there's the back-to-back one, which I kind of like as well.
We didn't talk about it, but I want to bring something up that it amuses me. After the ski chases where he gets the.
You also wish they were all like California girls?
Oh, he invents snowboarding, which is pretty cool. I love the soundtrack, because the soundtrack is quite good. And he
define soundtrack. Do you actually
the score?
Mean? Okay,
the score.
I thought you were talking about
that song.
Yeah.
No. It ruins the scene. You have Bond's driving a snowmobile, and he gets caught in an explosion. The snowmobile is destroyed. He manages to get one of the skis off, and he invents snowboarding. But there's a shot. You have a couple of Russians looking for him, and they're like screaming onto each other, blah blah. Where is he? Where is he? I'm assuming that's what they're saying. And there's a shot, and there's a cue, a really good cue in the score. And he slides in, and you're like, okay, this is gonna be cool. And then it cuts to I wish they had, like, because they have this strong the motif
or the leitmotif, or whatever they call it.
I can't do score, so yeah, you'll have to help me. They bring it up multiple times, and I love it. I love the score of that movie.
It's among Barry's best work in a laundry list of fantastic cues on a bunch of soundtracks in this franchise. Quibbles about stuff we'll get into and already have aside. This is one of the highlights of the movie. The score.
There's strong, like, it feels heroic when it should be. It feels like but this cue and it's a sign of things to. Like, it's sloppy, like it's a sloppy cue, and it's a great action sequence, but the music doesn't. It just doesn't work.
It's akin with we won't be getting to this movie for a while, but it's akin to the corkscrew jumping Man with the Golden Gun, where they don't. It's not like a rock tune, but everybody knows what we're talking about. Yeah. Like, it's such a good stunt. Why would you do that?
Shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And then he finally makes it to the. I don't know how to. The Q ice sub.
Ice sub. We can go with ice sub.
Ice sub. And this always amuses me because he gets into the sub. He takes his ski boots off, and the girl that's driving the sub says, "Oh, it's gonna take us 5 days." They mentioned 5 days in Alaska, and he says, "Put the thing on autopilot and come here." And he's been carrying this satchel with, and it turns out it's containing beluga caviar and Russian vodka, and you're excited, and he puts I don't know if he puts the brake in or she falls in bed and he starts 5 days in Alaska, and he starts undressing her.
Commander Bond, Call me James.
They're gonna enjoy their time. But when you look at the sub, I don't see any way they could have a bathroom, sir. It's gonna be like once they reach port, they're gonna have to burn the inside. Like it's gonna stink like
No.
sex and
Sex, yes. But
every other bodily fluid.
No. You don't understand. They use this sub in very look. The sub looks like a part of an iceberg, I guess, if you will. So it's only used in one particular climate, a very cold climate. So what you do is this is Q branch. How can you?
Please explain to me. I can't wait.
All right. So what they do is, because Q branch thinks of everything, the toilet is connected to like the outside. So they pee in a little pot, they poop in a little pot. You keep it out there for about 5 minutes, turns rock solid, and you just shake it out of the little pot.
And they have no discretion because there's no bathroom stall to do your business. They don't have even a shower. They're going to be 5 days stinking of bodily fluids of every kind. Yuck.
Well, they're good at wasting money, so.
Yes, seriously. And we move to the M scene, and this is where everyone who works at MI6 is a senior citizen.
Mm-hmm.
M is old. Q is old. I think it's
M is probably the youngest one in that room. Robert Brown is not a spring chicken.
No, but everyone looks old. And Moneypenny, bless her heart.
Yeah.
You
It's
can't-
like, what the hell? Again, I know I just asked that question a few minutes. What happened between 83 and 85? Like, she didn't look like that in Octopus. She was getting there, maybe. But
She was there.
she was already there?
I think.
Maybe I bask too much in the glory that is Octopussy.
I think between Moonraker and the View, For Your Eyes Only, she shows her age a lot.
All right. I maybe
But-
need to rewatch that one.
Then we move to the horses. He has 30 minutes to dress.
We didn't talk about Q's new pet.
Oh, you mean the pervert butt?
The pervert body, yeah. I mean, holy smokes. Again, you can't fault a film for doing something that was... I guess you can fault a movie for doing something that was cutting edge at the time, because you can think, well, wait a minute, this won't look cutting edge in 20 years from now. So maybe you can still fault a film for that. But still, it is fascinating to watch a scene like that. Oh, this is State of the 007. If you read any of the memos sent to you,
This is
you
the
would know
future.
that this is the... Yeah, exactly. You would know that this is the future. And it's
We all
this
have a
huge,
RoboCat set.
cumbersome thing you have to pick up with 2 hands. It looks like a bug. I mean, when is... Other than the part we will get to in about 6 hours from now, when is this thing going to be used?
And-
When?
The maker of that robot in that fictional universe of 1985 is the same company that made the Rocky robot in Rocky 4, which was also released in 1985. They look the same. People had a fascination.
85 was
The year of the robot.
not just a good year for business for that company. It was the only year of business for that company.
Like the idea of using robots to spy is a terrible one.
Yeah, well, until we get to the future and Skynet, starts making some liquid metal spies, maybe that'll change things. But until we get there, yeah, don't use the perv mobile. Just,
The perv bot.
yeah, the perv bot. The meeting ends, and as M is leaving the office, he says, 007, you have 30 minutes to dress accordingly. And then we cut to the racetrack, and this is where we see Max Zorn and Mayday for the first time, which is funny because they're shown a lot, but they don't do or say a lot until about 20 minutes later. But we see we keep cutting to them and stuff like that.
They show Mayday sort of calming one of the horses when the horse who's been drugged with adrenaline by Max Zorn with his little microchip injector. The horse is still high on adrenaline, and it's only Mayday with her. It's implied that they're both science experiment, and she calms the door. Well, she forces the door.
Which leads to one of my favorite lines, my favorite exchanges in this film.
Go ahead.
They're all looking at this, And Q says, she must take a lot of vitamins. Bond replies, I'm sure the horse does too. I do like that a lot. So.
I also meet one of my favorite characters in that movie, Tibbet, Lord Tibbet.
A lot of fun. Patrick McNee, wonderful actor. He is the original Avenger. You know, it was all about Diana Rigg and Patrick McNee.
I almost forgot it's on me when I put my list. Oh, it's true. She was also Honor Blackman.
Honor Blackman, Diana Rigg, and Patrick McNee.
James Bond has been dating John Steed's sloppy seconds for years.
So again, we meet Sir Godfrey Tibbet, which I can't quite put my finger on that. He's a sir,
And he's a
but
former trainer.
And a former trainer.
I think.
And he's an MI6 agent now.
Yeah,
but he's a sir.
Yeah,
I thought you're a sir, like
it's
you
weird.
Done.
It's weird, and I don't know. It's a weird character. I don't know why they made him. They could have just called him John. What's the
Steed?
John. Oh my God, it would have been perfect.
The late
Steed John. Wink, wink. Yeah, my name's Steed. Steed Johns. That name sounds familiar. That's my attempt at a Roger Moore line.
Not bad. We have a little work to do, but we'll get there.
I'm getting there.
I will train you. So we finally we found out that no, hold on a minute. I'm already at the horse auction. There's a couple things before the horse auction.
He meets Tibbet. Tibbet explains to him that
there's somebody investigating Max Zorn already, and it's our favorite character,
Auguste Aubergine. And
that is a mystery.
It's freaking weird because when you listen to the actor dubbing himself, he doesn't sound like a retard. I'm sorry to say that. I know it's never your PC, but it's an intention of the
it's a gross exaggeration of how. I mean, you see these films where French people, like proper French from France, French people speaking in English, and they have that accent. This is like that accent cubed.
Even the later on when they have the chase across Paris and Bond steals one of the taxis, and it's the most worst stereotype. Oh. He's drinking wine in his taxi. Never noticed that he's drinking wine. It's only the.
Oh my God!
We meet Auguste Aubergine at the. It's called the Jules Verne restaurant. It's in the mid part of the Eiffel.
It is in the Eiffel Tower, although it doesn't look like that. I don't think.
No, it's much smaller. Much smaller. It's not as, and I think it's been renovated since it doesn't look like that anymore. Even if it did before, it might have. I don't know, but that's a set. That's not the real thing.
And we get a little show.
The weirdest thing. The Bond movies are good for bring weird stuff.
Yep.
It's kind of like Casino Royale when they're going to the body exhibit. Something just weird. Auguste Aubergine meets his hand at the ends of fly in his soup.
Yeah, not one of. We shouldn't say things like it's not one of Roger's best. He doesn't write the freaking lines, but it's not one of.
He writes some of them.
Well, not one of Roger's best.
Yeah, not one, but still, I mean,
we get one of the most iconic moments, not just of this film, but in the franchise, where Mayday.
And the entire thing is more iconic, I think, because the music video, the Duran Duran music video.
Overhyped heights.
Overhyped height. It's a good stunt, and the chase sequence that follows it is amusing.
It's amusing. There's a neat little jump. I think he takes a small ramp and he actually jumps over a bus. It's good stuff. It's stuff you want to see in your Bond movie.
It's a good sequence. Let's face it, it's a good sequence. But the music video has been probably seen more than the movie itself.
Does you seem to know this music video rather well. Does the taxi driver feature in the music video?
No.
Well, then I don't need to watch it.
No, I don't think so, but now you're making me doubt myself.
Oh, I'm not in music video.
We can take that music video, cut it, and put him back in if you want.
You know what I don't understand about the ending of that sequence? Mayday flees in this little boat, which is piloted by Max Zorn, who is one of the world's leading industrialists. So this assassin is in this boat in the open public, in broad daylight, and one of the world's leading industrialists is helping her escape. No one is...
You're not supposed to think about that.
I never understood that moment.
Yeah, it's she slaps herself silly. Well, nonetheless, it's an exciting sequence. Max Zorn is selling horses.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Does he need the capital?
They never. Again, it's one of the problems with the plotting of this film. They don't. The France sequence, as amusing as it is, they just don't link it very well to the San Francisco sequence. But it's an interesting interpretation. I'm not even going to try to counter argument because it's probably like the only logical thing. Although, why does he need the capital if he's getting those? I know. I'm sorry to jump ahead. The blimp sequence. There's one guy that drops out. All the other ones seem interested. There's his capital. Like, it's like, I don't know. Actually, the money from the auction was to make the blimp.
And also, he brings information from Russia and gives it to other like electronic companies.
Okay, that's the part that sort of makes sense because of the pre-title sequence in Siberia
Yes.
and 003 with the chip.
Okay, we're gonna skip ahead to. They are selling horses.
Yeah, they're selling horses.
At the Chantilly Palace, I guess.
Jenny Flex welcomes Bond. I'm Jenny Flex. Well, of course you are.
And interesting fact about Jenny Flex, she appears with Roger Moore, and she sleeps with Sean Connery in The Last Crusade.
I was going to say Temple of Doom.
How did you know she was a Nazi? She talks in her sleep.
Last Crusade, yeah.
Yeah. Elsa Schneider. Things I remember from. We meet Stacy Sutton.
Briefly. We don't really know what she's doing at this point in the movie.
This is
Great actor, by the way.
great actress. You mean? Is she? Well, she's good with comedy. I've seen her do comedy where she knowingly portrays the dumb blonde, but she.
That's a little, in my opinion, that's maybe a little bit rough on her. Because her character is a geologist for the city of San Francisco. Because San Francisco is in a very critical geological spot on the map. That she can't be dumb if she's in that field. But I think the acting. Look, I'm gonna come clean. I only know Tanya Roberts from this movie. I've never seen her in anything else. Not
I've
even
seen her on
Beastmaster.
That 70s show.
So I just don't have any point of reference other than this film. Maybe she's just not particularly good. Not that she's horrible, but maybe she's just not particularly good in this role. So I have a somewhat, unfortunately, low opinion of her acting. Excuse me.
I'm also going to bring the what I'll call the Christmas Jones syndrome. Her character is badly written. I mean, most of her dialogue, especially near the end, is comprised of James and James for 20 minutes. Oh, James. Like, there's probably a supercut of her saying James and James on YouTube. I wouldn't be surprised. It's not her choice. Sometimes she has good comic timing from time to time. She has good reaction when she's driving the truck and she turns the siren and she's like,
She's not very good at playing snobbish and posh, though. There's a quick interplay between, still in France, there's a quick interplay between her and Bond. And Bond says, "Oh, you're leaving tonight. I shall be all alone." And she sort of turns around, "Oh, I very much doubt that." And it's so, like, it's acting. She's not playing anything.
Yeah.
She's acting. Like,
she's not. Like I said, she's better at comedy than drama.
Well, I'll take your word for it.
I liked her on that. She was.
I've seen that. Who is she on that show?
She's Laura Preppen's Donna's mother. Now we move to my not my favorites, where Tibbet and Bond investigate Zorn's secret horse genetic manipulation lab where they put
Quite a letdown.
microchips. Oh my god! And they have a little fight, which is
With Papa Bear?
Papa Bear, and it's the weirdest. It feels sloppy.
Well, and again, we've already mentioned it a couple of times, but here's another sequence where it really comes to the fore. What must have been extremely tricky editing to do to work around the limitations of the physical limitations that these actors have. I mean, Patrick McNee, bless his heart, once an Avenger, always an Avenger. The guy ain't a fighter. And Roger Moore, if there ever was a time where he could decently pretend to be a fighter, well, he can't really decently pretend to be a fighter anymore.
The best that I heard,
and they're fighting two old people.
yeah, the best description I heard for the description of how he fights is from another James Bond podcast, a French one, Bond's Planning, where they describe his one of the hosts that says he fights like a coat hanger.
Bonjour, bienvenue à Bonne's Planning. Stuff like that. It's a good show. I like the show. For all the worst possible reasons, it is a terrible, terrible fight sequence. You said people think this movie is disgusting. Yeah, this scene's disgusting if you like good action scenes.
Yeah, it's not. And the conclusion of it, they beat them up. They put it in a conveyor belt, and not only they must have escaped, but for some reason, it takes a long time for these guys to be taken out of the conveyor belt. And I guess they don't tell, yeah, we've been attacked by that guy and that guy, because the following day, Max Zorn still needs his computer and scanning software to find out that he's actually a British agent.
I find a computer indispensable.
But before that, Bond has to get back into his bedroom, and he has to jump
and dance into some fire.
And dance into some fire. And I mean, you heard the story that apparently she had a strap on.
Yeah.
It's a yeah.
Grace Jones. It's because I was every September there's this big film festival that happens in Toronto. It's actually one of the biggest during the whole festival season. And last year I was in Toronto for the festival. I didn't see the movie, but last year there was a documentary on Grace Jones.
Oh, really?
And I really want to see that movie because, kind of like with Tanya Roberts, I really only know Grace Jones from this film. I know she's a performer. I know she's a musical artist. She's occasionally was an actor, but I really just know her from this. But you hear these stories about how, not a mean person at all, but just a very, very flamboyant, unique, off-kilter.
I know what you mean, and they tried to put her in movies, and she didn't have a long career. She only made a handful of movies before they stopped trying to put her in movies. But
but they stopped putting her in movies.
No, but they stopped because I mean she was hard to. Even when you watch the documentaries, they say she was hard to get out of bed and get. She didn't like waking up early. So it was hard for them to always make sure that she's on set on time. But of all the movies that she made and that I've seen, this is the one that captures the essence of Grace Jones, the insanity. There's an energy, a beautiful insanity to her that only this movie captured. Just because she's fascinating to watch.
By that, Grace Jones, Bloodlight and Bami, B-A-M-I.
I don't know. I like her. I cannot.
Oh, if what I was saying insinuated that I don't care for her character, I mean nothing could be further from the truth.
I know.
She is utterly fascinating. She is. Oh, first of all, we don't have that many female villains. We had a lot in the early days, but I feel like at this point in the franchise, we haven't had one for a while. A good one.
Good one that stays she lasts almost the entire movie. Most of the time, they get off.
Or they're barely there, like Rosa Klebb.
Yeah.
She leaves a big impact, but she's in the movie for like 5 minutes.
Or what's her name in Thunderball?
She gets off halfway through. Miss Taro is arrested halfway through. So they're there in the early days, but not for very long, or we don't see them much. Whereas Grace Jones,
it's hot.
What is wrong with me today? Stacey Sutton is actually Tanya Roberts, but Mayday is there pretty much throughout the whole picture until maybe there's barely 5 minutes left in it. And yeah, her dress attire, her physique is.
That's what she was. No, she was a dancer originally.
I mean, she looks so fit. Like, she would kick the crap out of me so quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if she kicked the crap out of me today.
For a woman her age, she's still quite fit. I've seen pictures of her, and she obviously, she's not in her third. I'm guessing she's, 20s, 30s?
Let's find out. When is she born? I don't even know.
So
born in 48. She's 7 years old.
Yeah, she's my dad's age.
Happy birthday, Papa.
Bond finally talks to Max Zorin about buying a horse, and they make a bet so that if Bond can actually beat him,
He can keep Inferno.
Inferno. And before that, Bond wanted to get some information back to MI6, so he sent Tibbet to
The car wash. Going to the car wash.
unfortunately.
Gets washed out.
So Tibbet is killed. Bond tries to first win the race, and eventually they start to put booby traps. So he tries to escape. He notices Tibbet's car, and he's like,
Who does Max Zorn bring to this trap? Well, yes, it's a trap, but I actually meant track. Who does Zoran bring to this track if it's just a bunch of booby traps? Seriously.
Do you mean
I
the
guess you
goose?
can still do the course without actually employing the traps, but it's...
he wants to optimize all his system, and
No, but the traps that are supposed to
they're not
severely
traps.
injure people.
But they're not traps. What I'm saying is that they're optimized setups. Like you can, I'll make the fence this high. Oh, I'll make this fence this.
I'd like to know
Well-
how high that fence can go. I think it's a trap.
Well,
a trap.
I'm trying to explain. It's a trap. You're not supposed to think about it. And then Bond gets captured, knocked out, put in the truck, and then
Oh, Tibbet's. We find out that Tibbet's dead.
yes, and they are dumped into a lake, and the best tie-in in all of history.
Oh my God! I thought you photoshopped that.
Oh, you never saw that?
I never saw that. So this is a Michelin ad from obviously back in the day. We have Roger and the Michelin Man back to back.
And apparently, Mythbuster tried to replicate that stunt.
What of it?
No,
You can't do it?
No, you can't do
It's
it.
a damn good idea though. Great marketing. The tire that saves 007 in A View to a Kill.
It's-
You want to sell something? You sell it like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have from now on. I'm gonna have only Michelin tire because they saved Roger Moore.
Yeah.
So we finally make it to San Francisco, and Bond meets Chuck Lee, who's a CIA agent.
Distant cousin of
Felix Leiter,
yeah. I was gonna say Bruce Lee, but
Bruce Lee. Oh,
both in San Francisco.
some crabs have been disappearing because of the pumping station.
Yeah, here's where the screenwriters are really overcomplicating things. Salt water.
Here it's getting complicated. I thought we were complicated like 30 minutes ago.
That was simple compared to this.
This is okay.
There's something about the quality of the water that is being pumped into the bay as opposed to getting pumped out of the bay,
No,
or
they're-
water that shouldn't be there to begin
I
with.
think they're pumping water in.
Yeah, they're pumping. No, they are pumping water in, because I was gonna say they're pumping it in as opposed to out, but I suppose
No, technically they say it's to test the pipes, but I think they're filling something. I don't know.
But the quality of this water is such that it destabilizes, I guess, the tectonic plates in some.
No, it's
shape.
the ecosystem. It's just because they're slurping the water.
But
It
later in
scares
the
them.
movie, when they infiltrate, when Bond and Tanya, when Bond and Stacy, this is a hell of an
Okay,
episode so far.
Edgar, we shouldn't talk about the logic of the plot because we're gonna be recording until 10 tonight.
I know.
Basically,
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it, but Russians show up at the same time as Bond is investigating the pumping station, and Bond gets caught in one of the pumping stations. He's about to be
Diced.
by a fan, and he uses his oxygen tank to stop the fan.
Neat
dicing
way,
him.
neat way. Although, unfortunately, one of the two Russian agents does get captured, and
Tests the
yeah.
yeah, he gets diced.
Does it move fast? Yes, it does.
Ouch! Ouch! So Bond makes it out alive, tackles the other Russian.
Paula Ivanova. You know what I've heard, and I can't quote my source because I forgot it, so it could be bullcrap. They contemplated
No.
making that Anya Masova.
I think it's well documented that was their intention, and it would have made sense in a way, but in a way, I'm glad they didn't.
Well, for as much as I think Triple X is a cool character, the actress playing Paula Ivanova is a little bit more expressive than good old Barbara Maggie.
What's her name? The actress.
I don't know, actually.
I think it's Fullerton. I might be mistaken, but she's funny and good in the part. I kind of liked her. I love it when she's in the hot tub and Bond flips something and she's talking and the bubbles are tickling my
Tchaikovsky.
I was close. It's Fiona Fullerton. And then
Why do you think I sent you a dozen red roses? That was a performance.
Bond finally meets Stacy Sutton and he manages to save her from goons that Max Zorin sent to
Silence her. Or intimidate.
Yeah,
Because he's paid her off. Again, this plot is so complicated. She has discovered something, which is somehow...
No, he's trying to buy her company because she's the heiress of a company that he bought a majority. Max Zorin bought a majority share. He's trying to get full control of it and buy her out, but she doesn't want to.
For such a complicated plot, you're explaining it really well.
I've seen that movie perhaps too many times.
Notice the plot synopsis I gave earlier has none of this stuff.
So he saves her, they talk to Chuck Lee, then they realize that something's going on with the geological survey, so they go to City Hall.
Chuck, by the way, suffers the same poor fate as our friend Sir Godfrey.
The Mayday treatment.
The Mayday treatment. Mayday, Mayday.
So
The Mayday massage.
yeah.
So intense that 2 people died. She didn't want to kill them.
I'm sorry, I broke his neck.
I'm sorry.
They go to City Hall. Max Zorin is already there, and I can't do a good Christopher Walken, apparently.
There was a fire. You called the police. But I would have to be dead.
Yes.
Yes? Oh, he says yes. And they got permission to set fire to it was a controlled fire, but fire to the building at the top there. It's quite ballsy.
And this is where the song, the Stacy Sutton's incessant James begins and doesn't stop for the next 30 minutes.
I know. It's really... it's weird because you watch that scene... Well, first of all, it makes the Bond girl appear weaker than she needs to be. She doesn't have to be that weak, even though it's not every day that you're caught in a fire. I get it. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, okay, so you want to make her weak? Fine. Must you do it that way? Like, did nobody in the editing bay say, is she not yelling, James, one time too many?
The writer, the actress, somebody should say, she needs to be a little bit more proactive and not be completely like a baby.
Although Bond is a bit of a jerk in that sequence because he doesn't say what he's doing. He just climbs up. She doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Come back. It's a really screechy, annoying voice, but I can't exactly blame her for yelling stuff like, what?
No.
Come back. James.
But I love the music and the sequence. There's something I realized about Roger Moore's Bond, that he's a heroic character, but not a tragic one. He's not like Daniel Craig, who's always thinking about Vesper, or Pierce Brosnan, who's always drinking after, like in Tomorrow Never Dies, like, oh, poor Paris. Or Timothy Dalton, who's always completely pissed off. He's just a hero, and he's just going to do heroic stuff. I love the sequence when he's carrying the girl across like the ladder, and at one point, the music
and the instrumental version of A View to a Kill
yeah.
appears.
Well, like, I can't do it. You'll have to do it for me. Exactly. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And there's a point where they do it very. The instrumental is very slow, and he almost slips for a while. It's just like. That's a hero. He's carrying the lady.
It's pretty cool.
It's gentleman. It's cool. They don't do stuff like that in movies. Like, fuck. I'm sorry. Blip.
You mean bang?
Yes. I don't care whether he's a tortured hero. I just want to see him do heroic stuff. It's like I don't need my heroes to be tortured and morally bankrupt. I just want them to like do stuff, and that's what I appreciate about this version of Bond. And last night when I finished, I'm like, yeah, that's actually kind of badass. Like
It is badass.
he's just being a hero.
Exactly, and it's the forgotten, something that's been long forgotten in this day and age. Just being a good hero is badass. You don't have to be although anti-heroes are fun, you don't have to be an anti-hero to be a badass. You don't have to be grumpy to be a badass. You don't have to be vulgar to be a badass. If you're Roger Moore, you could be a badass.
If you save the girl and save the world, it's enough. So they escape in the ladder. Apparently, Roger Moore drove the truck in some of those shots. Apparently, he drove trucks during World War II. At one point, they had a problem with one of the drivers, or one of the drivers got sick, and Roger said, I can drive it. So he drove it for maybe a couple shots, allegedly. And we finally make it back to England, because I think the exteriors are actually in England, the mindset.
Right, for the shoot, not for the plot.
I know. Where the mind, Stacy finds the perfect fitting uniform for her.
I didn't notice the snotty look she gives him, though.
Yeah, because
I should watch that scene again.
She complained about the suit that they wanted to give her, so they had to tailor it for her measurements to look nice and sexy on her. And when her and James Bond leave the place where they found the uniform, he says, thank God we found one in your size. She gives him the look like, F you, old man.
Oh, yeah.
That's because he was mocking her, and they kept it in the movie. It's fantastic.
Also, P.S., don't take yourself too seriously.
So they make it into the mine. They discover the real plan, which is to flood
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we didn't discuss the Max Zorin. I almost want to say Max Shrek, because that's in Batman Returns. But Max Zorin's plot, we didn't talk about Max Zorin a lot.
No, we haven't. You're right, and where I get now, we're into this thing over more. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about Max Zorin. Now, it's difficult to separate Max Zorin from Christopher Walken. It feels like they're both one and the same. Is Christopher Walken playing a character?
It's charismatic. He's so charming. He makes so many fun choices and as an actor. The way he says, I think I noticed he says,
I'm happiest in the saddle.
And it's just...
You amuse me, Mr. Bond.
I love them. How can you not like that character and that actor?
It's my best horse. Misty.
He's the product of German steroid experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
either gone horribly wrong or perfectly right. It could have been either or.
It's a little bit both. A little bit of should A, a little bit of B. There's also the German doctor. I don't know if it's implied that it's actually his father, because they have a really close relationship.
I think it's a father figure.
Yeah.
There's that shot where they're hovering above,
And he goes like,
Silicon Valley. Yes, exactly.
Dad.
There's like that. Exactly. No, so there's biological father or not, he's the father in this context. Yes.
You know, one thing I always found bizarre at the end, like I'm going to skip more than a couple scenes. They blow up the mine. They're starting to flood the mine to blow Silicon Valley, but the only two people besides with Max Zorin are his father figure and Scarpine. He doesn't keep Mayday, who's implied that he has a sexual relationship with.
And she's really in it on it.
Yeah,
like she's gun ho. We're gonna kill these people. It's fine by me. So why does he want to kill her? He actually says.
And he keeps Scarpine, and he doesn't want to keep Mayday.
No, it's a good point. It's very.
Are they like brothers? Is Scarpine another experiment?
Well, Scarpine or Scarpine? I feel like his name is said multiple ways in this movie, but
I watched it in French last night, so I might be mistaken.
They say Scarpine in French.
I think they say Scarpine.
I feel like they say Scarpine in English. I may be misremembering.
And he
though.
has a scar in his face.
Yeah, which is actually kind of like the book Bond. Maybe that's a little nod. That'd be a weird character to do that nod for, but that'd be really weird.
Somebody had the
let's
name-
put that in the next movie.
Let's call a character
on who?
Scarpine and put a scar in his face. Brilliant.
Scarpine doesn't seem to. He seems to enjoy mowing down those poor employees.
Yeah.
And so I guess they sort of have the same
Sadism?
mental problems or something. Maybe there's something about Mayday. Maybe Max sees something in Mayday that says, she's good in bed and she's been my confidant, but I just can't trust her. Although the movie suggests none of that.
Yeah.
None of it. And when the employee you were mentioning who works for, was it in this episode or the other one? I don't remember. the employee that works for Risico.
Oh, yeah.
Says, man, he's
Bert or something.
Bert. And,
These
Mayday.
peepins are loyal to you.
Mayday's down there, and his reply is, yeah, a great coincidence. What? Who? What? Why? And again, the turn is ridiculous. I thought that creep loved me. Confirming she has no qualms about all these people dying in the cave and no qualms about the people out the cave that will die. She turns because she thought that creep loved her.
Let me explain the character of Mayday. The character of Mayday is a genetic experiment. She can't relate to other human beings because she is super strong. She's a little bit crazy because of all the steroids. The only person in her life that she feels a connection because he's a freak like her is Max Zorin because he's also a genetic freak.
Okay.
So that's
I see where
why
you're coming from.
why she's loyal to him, and she's like, we are the only two people like that. We should be together because there's nobody else. Why would you kill me? It's a ultimate betrayal. I mean, she's are literally made for each other. And Maxon says, no. They flood the mine. Stacy and Bond get captured. There's a lot of James.
Yeah.
One point she loses her uniform. She still has that little frilly dress under it. Bond and Mayday.
I do like the part where the blimp emerges from the little cabin there. That's kind of cool.
Blimps are cool, even they are completely useless.
So the blimp scene is kind of cool, and I actually kind of like the idea of Bond hanging from that rope and being towed above San Francisco. That's kind of cool, actually. I do like that.
Yeah, because they sabotage the explosion.
Yeah.
Mayday dies, and it's a great sequence. It's silly, it's sloppy, and he must have hung on that rope for hours because they're not close to San Francisco. Like physically, they are far, but they still make it all the way to the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's a great set. I mean, even the miniature work is great, and that's the thing. This movie was made in 1985. It's at the zenith of physical effects. There's no CGI in that movie. It's all optically printed miniatures. Everything is like they're at the zenith of what they're able to do.
The tech for practical effects is at its best, and we're still about like a decade before 8 years-ish. What, Jurassic Park's 93?
5. You know what? 4
T2's 91.
4 years from The Abyss, because
Yeah.
The Abyss features the pod
Yeah.
thing. Still, like the entire fight is kind of cool. I love
It's cool.
Christopher Walken's reaction when he's. It's like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna die. Ah!
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that. He's giggling while he's mowing down his employees. He has great reactions. I mean, we're going way back to the start of the movie where him and Bond have that meeting in the morning, and he's using his computer to identify. And every time the revelations get more and more critical, he's not worried. He's like, oh, it's like, this is great. I have an assassin after me.
Oh yeah. So final scenes is Bond and Stacy in the shower, and Roger.
I'll get the soap. Oh, that is not the soap. You hear that?
No.
Turn up the volume.
That is not the soap.
As Connery would say, "Don't get soap in your eye."
Oh,
It's like, I guess I don't think it's a callback to that, but it's
it's a yeah.
you got to turn up the volume a little bit. I swear to God, he says that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'll probably rewatch, but that's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually.
Oh,
And the perv bot comes into play.
what is he doing? Just cleaning up a few details.
Yeah, and he smiles.
Because he's a pervert with his pervert butt.
Yeah, but there were no suggestions beforehand that Q was a perv. It comes out of complete nowhere. It's a very awkward scene. It's very strange.
He's attempting a re-entry. No, that man has been following Bond's sexapades for decades now.
I guess so.
All right.
I'm the naive one.
Opinion?
Look, I mean, it's. I was about to say it's good. Hold on there, Tiger. It's amusing in spurts. There are a few consistently amusing things about it, like some of the lines Roger gets, Christopher Walken. Like, I've never been extraordinarily high on his performance in this film, but it is entertaining. Mayday's endlessly fascinating. San Francisco's nice to look at. But, yeah, there's a lot of awkward things. Like, there's no chemistry between Tanya Roberts and Roger Moore. I don't feel there's much chemistry.
There's no chemistry.
Scarpine is a dud. Scarpine is also a dud.
Whichever.
Not enough Jenny Flex. Really, I can't say bad editing because they probably didn't have any other footage to work with. But the editing is between Roger and his stunt doubles is very, very awkward. It does take me out of the movie a little bit. And even as far as Bond plots go, this one's just... I can't remember if it was during this... We've been talking for so long, I don't remember what we said during the show and what we said before recording. But we were talking about the how convoluted Bond plots can be. And like even by convoluted Bond plot standards, this one's a doozy.
This one is insane.
And I don't want something too complicated.
It's not complicated.
I do want things to sort of kind of maybe make sense.
It's convoluted. It's just Mad Libs. It's just like plot elements that make no sense. We're just going to move the story along, and if you can figure this stuff out, good for you.
Because we couldn't.
I mean, I helped the movie with my theorizing, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just completely puzzled. I mean, I usually go, and I didn't do it for the for you eyes only, going to the year and what happened in 1960 or what happened in 1985. This episode is long enough, so I'm just gonna say, you know what? It is not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite. It used to be one that I really hated, but with the years, it brings me back to when I was younger, and it still has. It's kind of like Superman 4, which is and it's better than Superman 4, but it is Superman 4 as a terrible effects, as a bad storyline, weak villains, but still has Christopher Reeves playing Superman, and that's a gold standard. And this movie, for all its mistakes and problems, still has Roger Moore, and he's still fun in the role, even though he's too old. I mean, I was going to say Max Zorin. Christopher Walken is great as Max Zorin. I love Mayday. I mean, we always say that the sum of all of its parts is better, or whatever. I don't know the expression, but this fits that description. Like the parts of the movie.
Parts are good, but the sum, you take it as a whole, and you're like, well, this is not even close to being one of the better ones. But then you look at some of the parts individually, like, well, that's pretty good, and that's pretty good, and that's not half bad.
It's memorable. I mean, whatever your opinion might be. And you know what? It's entertaining as a Bond movie, as a bad movie, and just as a movie. It's an entertaining piece of work. I've watched it with friends as a bad movie night, and we had a great time. But there's still some solid action pieces. Roger Moore is intentionally funny. I mean, it's an entertaining time. You won't be bored. There are bad movies where you're bored as hell, and this one is not great, but still entertaining. So I'm like, would I recommend it as your first? No, not even your second or your third. But you know what? If you want to have a good movie night and people know that you're a Bond fan and you want them to have a good time, put this one on, get some beers. You're going to laugh your ass off because, I mean, it's so convoluted.
You know what? That might be interpreted as a backhanded comment, but it works.
It works.
You need your Bond fix. You got some people over that don't really care that much about Bond. You're not going to show them From Russia with Love or Majesties. Show them something like, well, I need my fix. These people don't care about these movies. Let's watch a really weird, stupid one.
But we saw it sober in theaters, and we still
enjoyed ourselves.
Both enjoyed it. I mean, is it because we're Bond fans, or is it because the movie? Honestly, I can't tell. I know this movie with newbies can be enjoyed as a bad movie night type of deal, as all of the good.
For what that's worth.
It's still, I mean, it's entertainment is entertainment. Whether it's good or bad, as long as people get a reaction of it, whatever it might be, it's still better than nothing. Contemplation and boredom is worse than just, I hate this movie. I prefer hating a movie than just...
If you give me the choice between not watching a Bond film today or watching A View to a Kill, I'll happily choose to watch A View to a Kill. And I watched it last night.
So did I. All right, let's wrap this up. Edgar,
what do you want to know?
Where can we be found online? I need to know. What am I doing?
We can be found in a few places, such as www.thejamesbondcomplex.com. I keep bringing that one up, but I'm pretty sure that's like the least visited of all these spots. We're on Twitter at The Bond Complex. We have a Facebook page. Please search for The James Bond Complex. We have a Instagram account. Please search for us at The James Bond Complex. We can be listened to on Google Play. You can subscribe on Google Play.
Yes. Yes, you can.
I guess listeners can guess which one of these I use and which one I don't. On Google Play, I think for the past couple episodes, I've forgotten to encourage people to go to anchor.com. You can listen to the episodes there, and thank you, of course, to those fine folks for hosting us. And there's always iTunes. Subscribe, review, and give us a 005-star rating. We need to earn our 00 status as well.
Yes.
We'll make our way to 007 eventually. Let's start with 005. And I'm on Twitter. We are on Twitter individually. I'm at 00pop. That's the word _OH_pop.
I'm at Matt O'Clair. I was another attempt at Christopher Walken.
A brilliant one. You saved the best for last, I see.
Yes, of course.
Just as James Bond is always wont to return, so too will the James Bond complex, but under a different guise. You know, listeners have noticed that we've dropped knowledge and comments and jokes about Batman, the Caped Crusader. It's happening. The James Bond complex will take a detour with the Gotham City detour coming up next week. Merci beaucoup et à la prochaine.
Au revoir.